Wow, thank you so much, Marquise, and everyone at Birthright Living Legacy for all the work that you guys do. It's such an honor to be with you this morning. The most important job I have, besides being the great husband to Sarah, she may not always agree with that, is to be the father of my 6 kids. And when I became governor, I had no idea that it was going to make me a better father. You see, my 18-year-old son joined the Army. And so my wife and I, we went to his swearing-in ceremony. And when you swear into the Army, you promise to obey the President of the United States, to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And because my 18-year-old son was also joining the Oklahoma National Guard, with his hand in the air, he promises to obey the commands of the governor of the state of Oklahoma. So I've been obviously wearing him out and telling him to go polish my boots and wash my truck, and he's been rolling his eyes at his dad, but it's a lot of fun. But each child was carefully created by God, and there's no greater honor or responsibility than to raise them and remind them of their inherent value. This is not a responsibility any of us should take or hold lightly, as it can dramatically change the trajectory of our kids' lives. Is there any dads of daughters in the room? Okay, we got a few. Okay, a lot. I've got 3 daughters, 2 teenage daughters, so please see me afterwards if you have any advice on raising teenage daughters. I certainly need it right now. But our daughters look to us to see how men should treat them. They look to how we talk to them, how we treat other women, and how we speak about other women. Fathers, I believe we have to protect our daughters. Daughters who have a close relationship with their fathers are less likely to suffer from depression or anxiety. They tend to have higher self-esteem, greater confidence, and a better ability to handle stress and emotional challenges when they have a great relationship with their dad. Are there dads of sons in the room? Okay, excellent. I've got 3 sons as well. There's no one on earth who is better equipped to be a great influence on your sons than you. God gave you the sons for a reason. Our sons look to us as an example of how to be a man. A book that I read, and I see some people in the audience here, Drew Files, who was a mentor to me and introduced me to a book called Raising a Modern Day Knight. Yes. And it really had an impact on my life. And it laid out 4 principles of authentic manhood. And it's something that I try to teach to my kids. And I want to go over those 4 principles with you. Number 1, a real man rejects passivity. We need to stand up for what's right. Defend the defenseless. A real man accepts responsibility. We don't blame others. I mean, that is a loser strategy to always make excuses. Oh, it's somebody else's fault. I wish I was born into this family, or I wish I had this. We need to accept responsibility. That's what real men do. Real men lead courageously. Joshua 1:9 says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." The last one is expect the greater reward. I believe that God has a unique plan and purpose for every single child, every one of our children. And we need to make sure that they understand that they're uniquely designed for that purpose and that plan. And when God's for you, who can be against you? And I'll tell you my personal story. I grew up in Norman. My dad was a pastor. I went to Oklahoma State for college and then started a business here in Tulsa for 20 years. And then I just felt the Lord lay on my heart to run for governor. And I didn't know anything about politics. Trust me, I knew nothing. I'd never been involved in politics. I had to Google, when is the governor's race? I was so scared. But back in 2018, but when God's for you, who can be against you? And so I had to lead courageously. I had to step out in faith and expect that greater reward when God was calling me to do that. But if we do not teach our sons to be strong, authentic men of God, the world will teach them to chase after worldly desires. There's a hook that's trying to pull our young men to things that aren't godly, to worldly desires. If you turn on the news or a TV program, or you look at the trending videos on YouTube, it's clear the men the world is raising are not the men the world needs. We don't need more men who are chasing money and power. Mark 8:36, one of my favorite scriptures, is what good does it do a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? And the older I get, and I think it's so important that we look to our elders and we look to people older than us that have more life experience. And the things that I know now at 51 are different than I thought at 25. And there is a move to significance and not just that desire for success. And the older you get, you realize that really life is more about the relationships and the people that you're impacting and the people that you're investing in. And it's that next generation that fathers have such an important role to play, especially with our own sons and daughters. We don't need more men who would rather play video games than get a job. We don't need more men who treat women as entertainment. We need men who will reject passivity, who will lead our communities courageously and our nation with integrity. We need men who would be proud to have our daughters to marry. We need men who will make good husbands and dependable fathers. We need a fatherhood revolution in our country, and it all starts with us. Our nation is experiencing a crisis, a crisis of fatherlessness. Studies show that the average boy, this is just startling to me, will spend only 30 minutes a week in a one-on-one conversation with their father. And that same boy will spend over 40 hours a week in front of a screen. Today, there's nearly 18 million children who are living without a father in their homes at all. And the statistics paint a very grim picture. 71% of those who drop out of high school grew up without a present father. 66% of juveniles in state custody experienced fatherlessness. 85% of children that exhibit behavioral problems are living without a father. You know, I want to be clear, if that's your story, if you grew up without a father, or you don't live with your children now, these statistics, they don't have to define you. You get to write your story. And I remind everybody, this is the first day of the rest of your life. And as I have children that are struggling with this or that, and they come with their problems, and I explain to them, you know, when you don't compare yourself to your brother or your sister or anybody else, and that's a loser strategy. You be the best person that God created you to be. And no matter the way that God set this thing up, I mean, here's the deal. I'm at 51, and most people would look at me and say, oh, he's really successful. He's the governor of the state. But I try to explain to my kids that if I go about from right now, maybe I'm right here and some other people are down here and they're incarcerated, they just got out of prison, whatever the case. Maybe I'm here and they're here. If I make the wrong decisions tomorrow and I cheat on my wife and I ended up getting a divorce and make bad decisions and get into drugs, I could be right here. There's people that have gone from the White House chief of staff to prison. And there's people that are in prison that have gone to the White House chief of staff. So it is good decisions from now, every single day, that we have to make, whether you're governor or whether you're coming out of incarceration. You can do it. Every man in this room gets to decide what kind of father you're going to be. Every kid in this room, if you don't have a father at home, find someone that you can look up to and you can emulate, and you can set that pathway of hope that your future can be better than your present. And when you look at people, and I just always encourage you to idolize and say, here's who I want to be like. And then really think about what are the pathways that they got there. You know, how do they do it? You got to graduate from high school, and you got to do the right things. You got to get in the right positions. There's no difference between where you want to be and where you are now, except some of the decisions that you make. And that's just having a hope and looking and seeing what you want your future to be like. The saying is, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? You're the same person, but get around the right people, and you can absolutely change the trajectory of not only your life, but also for generations to come by the decisions you make. But I know that you've chosen a new path just because you've showed up here today and you want something different for your future and your community. You are going to change the trajectory of not only your family's life, but the trajectory of our nation. You turn on the news today and you hear devastating stories of crime and scandal. It's hard to see our world in this state, and it concerns me to think of my kids that grow up like this. But here's the secret. We have the power to change it. If we want a strong nation, we have to have strong states. If we want strong states, we have to have strong cities. If we want strong cities, we've got to have strong communities. If we want strong communities, we have to have strong churches. If we want strong churches, we have to have strong families. If we want strong families, we have to have strong fathers. The health of our nation comes directly. Thank you. The health of our nation comes directly from having strong fathers in the home. And that can start at the dinner table. In my family, I work really hard to try to make Friday night a sacred time for us to come together and share a meal. Different communities do it different ways. The Jewish community does a great job. They call it Shabbat dinners, and it's basically to respect the Sabbath. So you can learn from these different cultures and how they bring their families together, and they turn off all their electronics. And Sarah and I use this time to pray over our kids and catch up on their weeks. Studies have shown that sharing family meals result in improved school performance, better family relationships, improved nutrition, lower likelihood of future substance abuse, and a decreased likelihood of behavioral issues and even mental health challenges. If all of our kids, think about this, are in traditional school and you work 9 to 5, you still have 16 opportunities to share a meal together. And I know how busy and crazy life gets, but I challenge each of you, let's start with just one meal that we set aside as a family, whatever night or day that is. But take the opportunity to put away your electronics, turn off the TV, intentionally engage with your kids. One idea that you can do is what we call celebration dinners. And so you pick one person in the family and you have everybody go around and tell what they appreciate about that person. And you're building them up, and you're building up that person. You're letting them know that they're part of this family. They belong to our family. And that's so important for young people to know that they have a place to belong. Give them an opportunity to talk about what's happening in their lives. Tell them what's happening in yours. This is how we start a revolution. I get it. Life is super stressful. It's busy. Being governor, there's always someone wanting my time or wanting me to schedule and go somewhere around the state. So it's an intentional choice I have to make to put my phone away, to say no to a meeting, to move my schedule around so I can spend some quality time with each one of my kids independently. And it's not perfect, trust me. Just ask my wife. Some days it's only a quick conversation, or maybe I'm tucking them into bed at night. But every intentional moment strengthens our relationships and sets our kids up for future success. Kids with engaged fathers are 43% more likely to get A's in school. They're twice as likely to go to college, 80% less likely to spend time in jail, and 50% less likely to experience depression or anxiety. So there's no higher calling than to raise up kids to be strong men and women of God. Our state and our country desperately need fathers who are willing to step up and challenge and change the status quo. It's not easy, it's not glamorous, but it is holy work that you can do. I'm excited about Birthright Living Legacy and what all you guys are doing to get more fathers engaged in homes and the communities. And Marquise, you're doing an amazing job, and I call you a friend. And I'm proud of each of you for spending your day here and doing the hard work to change the future of your family. I love this quote. I'll wrap up with this. Ronald Reagan said, "There's no institution more vital to our nation's survival than the American family. Here the seeds of personal character are planted, the roots of public virtue first nourished. Through love and instruction, discipline, guidance, and example, we learn from our mothers and our fathers these values that will shape our private lives and our public citizenship." Listen, you don't have to be president, you don't have to be governor or CEO or a movie star to change the world. All you need to do is step fully into your calling as a father and love the children that the Lord gave you. The revolution begins now. Let's change our city and let's change our state. God bless you.